And parents understand that. That's why they often push for the unseating of principals, because they understand that the principal of any high school, for example, is the head of that school in all departments, in the department of finance, in the department of academics, and in all departments, same as the presidency. President Ruto is the head of government. You all know that the question about who had a majority of seats between Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza government. You know how that tussle went, and how the president influenced the independent MPs, and how he bought some MPs from the opposition side and forced a majority in the National Assembly. It's quite unfortunate, but that is the status quo. So you have a president who runs the legislature. He has influenced the judiciary, and he is the head of the executive. So if Kenya was an high school, then the president would be the principal. So even if he fired the senior teachers and the rest of the teachers and the cooks and the accounts clerk and the bazaar and the school secretary, nothing would change. I mean, the problem is at the top, not those that are junior to him. If any Kenyan cannot see that, then we need to show them. We need to push this message out there. We need to make them understand why we have a problem with the president. And for those Kenyans who've lost the revolutionary zeal because they feel that a few reforms, for example, the dissolution of cabinet, the repeal of the finance bill, is going to solve this country, we need to reawaken them. They need to understand that those are merely survival tactics from the head of state because he does not want to relinquish power. If we can manage to reawaken that zeal, that revolutionary spirit, that yearn for change among those that whose battery for revolution is low right now, we can actually get back to pre-finance bill moods. And it's a hard work. It's a tussle. Today I reminded those from my community. I'm not tribal, but I was invited to a TV show and I could not dishonor the invite, especially after I realized that Kenyans were not going to demonstrate today. And I pushed word out there in local language. And I will continue pushing the same word on Twitter, on TikTok, and on ground. We need Kenyans to understand that the problem is at the top. And if we fail at that, then allow me to say, sadly, this would be the end of this for some time. We may revive the fire maybe in 2026 or when the president fucks up again. Because as you remember, the breaking point for Kenyans was the finance bill 2024. The absence and the silence of the opposition actually gave us a vacuum, a space to air out our voices undeterred. And we got coverage for the same. If the opposition was as vibrant as it was a year ago, and if the opposition was not silent, we probably would not have gotten that chance. They would have continued negotiating with the government and dialoguing with the government as they have for years. But I'm glad they were silent. I'm glad they were absent. I'm glad we got mad enough and courageous enough to brave tear gas, to brave bullets. I mean, I saw my friends shot left, right. I was shot at myself. I merely survived. We've survived canisters. We've survived abductions, and we are still not safe. But we braved it all. If we can reawaken that spirit in whatever capacity mtu ako nayo, as a content creator, as a lawyer, as a journalist, as an accountant, in whichever profession you are in, we can get back Kenya on track. People need a reason to head out to the street. People need to understand the problem is at the top. I'm sorry for that lengthy introduction, but that is as it is. We need to set stage for a renewal of mind, for a renewal of commitment, because we need a renewal, a renewal of commitment. I have 3 questions. I don't know if Senior Eric Theuri will take them. Is there any other lawyer on the speakers panel? Let me direct them to Senior Eric Theuri. If there's another lawyer in the speakers panel, I think they will collaborate with Senior Eric to answer the questions. One, I have noted with concern that too much power is vested on the president. Well, that is how the Constitution was framed, and it is a situation we have to deal with. The first question is it possible? Maybe, is it possible to delegate the role of appointing commissioners from the president to perhaps the Chief Justice or the Speaker of the National Assembly, or to any other official in the government apart from the president? Because if the president has to choose between two people on who becomes the chairperson, we all know, and history has served us well, that the president will always choose a chairperson who would favor him or her, a chairperson who is willing to be compromised. After all, the president appoints them. It is unfortunate that in this country, presidents dialogue with appointees. And if you are not conforming, if you are too inflexible, the president may decide not to appoint you. After all, if the president appoints an uncooperative, let me put it that way, an uncooperative chairperson, he is sure that he has possibly lost the elections. We all know how chairpersons play a vital role, especially chairpersons of the IEBC Commission. Is it possible to remove such powers of appointment from the president to someone else? That is the first question. The second question, under Article 145, I stand to be corrected, but I think Article 145 addresses the removal of office of the president on grounds or on impeachment, on grounds of impeachment, that a motion has to be moved through parliament by a member of parliament. Then there has to be reasons to impeach the president. Among the 3 reasons listed in the Constitution includes gross misconduct by the president or the head of state, gross violation of the Constitution of Kenya, or the possibility of the president having committed a crime under Kenyan law or international law. That is it, as it is in regards to impeachment and the reasons for impeachment. So the National Assembly has to confirm the veracity of such. It has to go through a voting. If the motion is approved by a majority of the members of parliament, I think 3/4, if I'm not wrong, it is sent to Senate and the procedure goes on and on and on. So my question
Thank
was...
you very much, James. James, kindly land so that your question can be responded to allow other speakers to speak. The panel is full and people are really complaining. So we take it brief and then we also allow them to answer.
My question was to advocates here. Of the 3 reasons the president can be impeached on, which one can we pin him on? And the last question, Article 144 guarantees that a president can be removed from office on grounds of incapacitation. This has to be mental or physical incapacitation. The procedure for removal of a president is still outlined, clearly outlined under Article 144. That there are 3 persons who are supposed to be, there is a tribunal that is supposed to be set up by the Chief Justice, I think, of 3 persons from from the medical body, 1 advocate, and one person nominated by the president. Some time ago, lawyer Ndegwa Jiru, senior counsel, pointed out to this as the easiest way to remove a president from office. So my question is, on what grounds, in terms of incapacity, which is the easiest reason to incapacitate a president, either mentally or physically? Is it about his physical health or his mental ability to lead a government? Sorry, I've taken too long. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Senior Eric, I don't know if you'll take that, or Alex.
I could do that. Let me just respond.
Thank you.
Okay, let me begin by saying this, that we find ourselves in a very interesting position. The position we find ourselves is that we have certain grievances and we feel extremely strong about those grievances. You can tell from what James is saying that he has a very clear diagnosis of where the problem is. That might be the easier part for all of us. I mean, being able to point out where the problem is. The more difficult part is how to deal with it. And I keep saying that the law has given us how the Constitution ought to be interpreted, and the Constitution itself has given us how the canons of interpretation, or the rules of interpretation. And one of the critical rules of interpreting the Constitution is that you must read it as a whole, and you must read it and act in a manner that advances the Constitution. And I think that is where we are all having a challenge. And I like the conversation that we are beginning to have of looking at the various constitutional means of removal of the president, constitutional means of removal of the members of parliament if we feel like we are aggrieved with them, and constitutional means of contributing to the government agenda in terms of public participation. So I would want to say that we have options, and we have a lot of options, and we should not be limited to one option only, because public protest is a good way of showing discontent with certain policies of certain decisions that have been made by a government. But they also have their own limitations, and we need to look at the options that are available to us and ask, in view of the limitations that might be there, for example, with public protest and public demonstrations, what other options are available to Kenyans? And I think I like the conversation, because we begin to look at and saying, is recall a possibility? Is impeachment a possibility? Is use of Article 144 a possibility? And that is good, because it shows that we are alive to the fact that we must find the prescriptions to the challenges that we are facing in the Constitution of Kenya. Because what we are all asking for is that the Constitution has a promise, and we want to realize that promise. The Constitution is a social contract between us and those who we give the power to make decisions over our life, and we would want to see greater meaning in as they undertake those functions. So the reality of the system that we have is that we have a presidential system, and that the president is both the head of state and the head of government and a figure of national unity. It is as a result of his power as a figure of national unity that he is given certain symbolic powers in terms of appointment. What the Constitution has done is that it has tried to restrain the power of the presidency. And the power of the president is then restrained by parliament, is restrained by the executive, and is restrained by the independent constitutional commissions that we have. Of course, it is highly debatable that the institutions that are supposed to restrain the power of the president are working as good as they should be working. And I think for me, that should be the agitation that we should be having. That is the agitation that we should say we should not relent from, so that we keep calling into account anyone who is exercising public office and asking them, you are not exercising your public powers, your public functions as contemplated under the Constitution. And we begin to look at all these institutions and to say, how can we hold them to account? Because if they are working as well as they are supposed to work, there will be a restraint on the power that the president exercises. And so therefore, the spectra of an all-powerful president will begin to diminish, because that president will be subject to the law. Now, you remember, for example, the Law Society challenged the appointment of the CASs, and the Constitutional Court said that the president cannot do what he has tried to do. And it quashed them and declared that action to be unconstitutional. Now, that is a restraint on the power of the executive. So if we have more and more petitions and more decisions coming from the courts, if we have the police exercising their powers and functions as contemplated only under the Constitution and not subjecting themselves to whimsical political directives, then there would be a restraint on the power of the president. And I think what we need to realize as Kenyans is that we are where we are because we are not faithfully implementing the Constitution. Because if we were, we would not be having the challenges that we have. And so the renewal that I would want to see in the country, the revolutionary spirit that we would want to see in this country, is a spirit and a renewal that talks about, that seeks to enforce not just the letter of the Constitution, but the spirit of the Constitution, so that that spirit should awaken institutions, should awaken our conscience, because it is the only way we can ensure that that is done. If you remove the power of appointing, for example, as appointing commissioners, and you vest it on another body, and you still don't get people of integrity, we will still have the problem. So the problem is not per se the appointing authority. The problem is the process that leads to the appointment on one hand, and on the other hand, is that those who are appointed perhaps either lack integrity, or two, are institutions that are so weak that they are unable to discharge their functions as contemplated under the Constitution. And public scrutiny, the calling to account of public officers, helps to give courage to those that may want to do the right thing, but are in an environment where everyone around them is weak, because it gives them the moral courage to be able to do the right thing. And so when you look at, for example, the appointment of commissioners, there is supposed to be a selection panel. There's supposed to be public participation prior to the appointment of those of the commissioners. And so if we have men and women of integrity who apply, and we have petitions and we have memorandums that come and say this person is of questionable moral standing, but this one is good, we know him, he has of this standing, we have tested him and we know that he's a person of integrity, and we ask the selection panel to appoint that person. And if the selection panel then listens to what people say and gives the country people of integrity, then the president will elect into office people of integrity. But if in the process there is inadequate public participation, and the people who are presented to the president are of questionable standing, then the president will almost inevitably appoint those people because it will serve his purpose to have people he can manipulate. And those are now some of the things that I would want us to take from this. Let us not just look at it and say that the institution of the presidency is the problem. Yet, yes, it might be a problem, but it is so much a problem because the restraint that is supposed to be that on that office from the other institutions, parliament, judiciary, and constitutional commissions, is not working as well. So if we can fix that mechanisms, that is what will create a problem. Because
Oh my God. Eric?
and
Steve, you can pick it up.
He's back.
Are you there?
He's back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We lost you for a minute.
So sorry, I was saying that the problem that we have had is that we have over time relied so much on individuals as opposed to building the credibility of our institutions and ensuring that we have men and women, and there are so many in this country, men and women of character and integrity that can be able to lead the process forward. So finally, let me just comment, and I would want to say that the process of impeachment of a president is a political process. It is a political process. And when it becomes a political process, it is extremely difficult to achieve it unless you have the political numbers. It is extremely difficult to achieve unless you have the sufficient pressure on political parties. And it is literally impossible to do so at this particular juncture, given the kind of parliament that we have. And in any event, even if we were to achieve impeachment as under Article 145, to what end would that impeachment serve? Because ideally, the question should not be so much of the individual. The question should be, what can we do to make our institutions better? And I think that for me, what I look at what is happening in this country is a social, let me just use this word, a social media revolution, because I've looked at the amount of information that is in TikTok, that is in Twitter, and people, the analysis that people are making on the current laws and on the current bills that are in parliament, on the supplementary estimates. And I'm seeing that quantum of knowledge and information, if properly deployed in a meaningful and a coordinated manner, and in ensuring that every piece of policy, every piece of government decision would be infused with the kind of quality and the kind of insight that a lot of us have had, we are going to get to a point where mediocrity will take a back seat, and merit will now become the issue that everyone considers as we undertake public offices. And what that will do is that the men and women who are of integrity and who find it difficult to rise up because perhaps when they try to raise their head, they're hit because it is not fashionable to be a person of integrity in government, then would begin to shine through, and we would see a renewal in our institutions and a new vigor that will reinvigorate the manner in which we exercise public authority and exercise a public trust. So I would want to urge all of us, let us not just look at the aspect of we need to be on the streets for us to be heard. Let us use the other mechanisms, petitions, going to court, challenging issues, and calling to account those that we feel are whatever. I look at what happened, for example, to Farah Maalim when he was at the White Sands, and people used social media to raise awareness and to say, is White Sands saying that their values are consistent with the presence of that gentleman there, and White Sands had to come out and make a statement. That is now what we should be experiencing in this country, calling institutions and calling other people to account and to say, when you host so and so, are you saying that you are supporting the kind of stand that he has taken? That reawakening, I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, is what we need in this country. We do not. It will be much more effective than the protests that we are making, because it will complement the protests, and it will ensure that those who can soil a protest by bringing in goons so that the message is lost would not have that opportunity. So let us look at creatively other mechanisms through which we can hold public officers to account. And then I can assure you that what we are fighting, what all of us seek and want for this country, will be realized if we remain vigilant, if we remain committed, and if we remain patriotic and observing what the Constitution asks us to observe as we undertake our responsibilities as citizens, and for those who are in public office, their responsibilities as public and state officers.
Co-host,
Thank you very much. I am right here. Thank you very much.
Senior Eric.
James, hold on a minute. James.
Okay. Yes.
Come on, don't spoil it when he's just told us that most of our leaders don't have discipline. Just let me take on the space, and then I can give you the mic.
Okay.
Now, with a lot of reservation, the real answer that it's called uncomfortable truth is like our leaders are having something called misuse of power and lack of discipline, because the Constitution is there to guide you and take you through how you're supposed to lead the people, and then you're taking some mantle in your power because you have the authority, with a lot of reservations. So, and whatever he stated very clearly, we can use other platforms, which are very many. Remember, for the first 2 weeks, they could not go to churches. And then those are the MPs, they could not go to churches. They started driving in small cars that you could not identify them, because when you're sitting somewhere and you want to nash people and squash them like their pupas, and people refuse, then you cannot fit to be amongst people. So, James, I'll give you the mic back. There are some of the sensitive topics. I know Eric is able to handle it, but we are dealing with leaders who are overusing. It's called misuse and lack of discipline in their power. James, you can go ahead, and then I start circulating the mic. Alex, I will let you speak after James, kindly. And thank you for joining the space.
Thank you. Senior Eric, there was some time ago, I remember Raila Odinga, should I call him former prime minister, was fronting a certain narrative that it is possible to remove a president from power by collecting, was it 2 million signatures from Kenyans? Is that an option constitutionally, or was it a pure political gimmick? That is the last question I had.
PLO, you came back on the mic. Did you have another question? PLO? Alex, you can go ahead. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Did Senior Eric hear the question I asked?
He's still muted, so give him a few. Alex, you can go ahead, and then Eric is still here. He said he's here for a while, so he'll
Yes,
respond to that question.
yes. Thank you very much for giving me the mic, and I also want to thank everyone who is participating and my former president of the Law Society, Eric Deuri. I want to begin from the point that the former president said that the Constitution requires us to interpret it purposively. That is, what did the Constitution intend to address? Unfortunately, it's only us, the citizens, who have been interpreting the Constitution purposively. But that's not a big problem. It's a good thing. Eric also said that we need to stop focusing on the person, and I tend to agree with that. For me, I think the movement that we have right now is about restructuring the state, because this state that we have, this design of this Kenyan state has not been working. So the questions we need to be asking in terms of strategy: what is the structural design of the Kenyan state that we need to answer, to address? We need, how I view it is this way: we need to address policy, we need to address legislation, and we need to address the administrative part of the state. Let me start with the last one, the administrative part of the state. The administrative part of the state includes the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is like those people we find at Nyayo House, immigration, where you go apply for ID, it takes 7 months, 1 year, whereas the Constitution and the law requires those people to serve you immediately. Another bit of the bureaucracy is what we saw yesterday happening with Macharia Gaido. The law already provides for how the procedures of arrests. You should not be assaulted, you should not be put in handcuffs if you are not running away, but the police go ahead and do it anyway. So we need to discuss how we are going to address the administrative part of the state. Then there is legislation. I will give you an example, and perhaps the lawyers in here, my colleague Steve, we need to be proposing amendments to some of these laws that the executive uses to muzzle Kenyans. A good example is the National Police Service Act. Another one is the Criminal Procedure Code. Do we need to amend it to require that police wear body cams when arresting? Right now, there is nothing that in the law that outlaws your advocate or yourself to record an interview between you and the police. But we have seen Kenyans being assaulted for recording police activities. We have seen a governor saying that they will arrest Kenyans who take videos of city county askaris when they are harassing Kenyans. That is a bit of legislation. Do we need to track the legislation that is still in 1920? For instance, the Criminal Procedure Code was enacted in the 1930s. That was a law that was enacted by Muzungu, and it was meant to perpetuate the colonial state. That's why you will find offenses like vagrancy, offenses like offending the public order. It was meant to ensure that Africans don't go and idle around and offend the white man. So we have an act that was enacted with the attitude of 1930 that has survived post-2010 constitution. So despite us having the 2010 constitution, we cannot go anywhere within that legislative environment. Then there is policy. The policy is what you will see that mostly the cabinet describes itself as the apex policy making institution. Policy, policy in Kenya has largely been a consensus of the political elite. When the political elite say, now we are going to be doing things this way, that's what emanates as Kenyan policy, and that is what cascades into legislation and informs how our bureaucracy operates. So how can we sort of have a record of the offensive policy. And these policies have affected everyone. They have affected agriculture. That's why you will see you're told you need a permit to farm certain crops. Those are certain policy attitudes that we need to address. So we have to take it beyond William Ruto. And the main reason why we must do that is because when we make it about William Ruto, the movement is going to be hijacked by reactionaries. Reactionaries are those people who are waiting for this movement to remove William Ruto so that they can occupy his position and perpetuate that malfunctioning state. So we have to be very careful, because if we make it about the person, it will be hijacked by people who do not want to reform the state, people who do not want to see lasting reforms. Whereas what I believe we are asking is for this state to work for us, so that when a 20-year-old applies for an ID, they do not have to wait for 7 months. When a young advocate, like some I have seen in this forum, go to the court to file pleadings, they will not be asked to bribe a registry clerk. That is the reform we want, a state that works for everybody, so that I don't need to know Eric Theuri for me to get services. I don't need to know anyone to get services. It's not about the person. Let's have a way to track these things. And I was impressed when someone said, do we need to have blockchain experts? These blockchain experts can help us track these things, categorize these aspects of the state, and see where we can pool our collective knowledge to find these reforms. For instance, my own Law Society of Kenya, and this is something I've been asking, probably Steve could explain. Do we have bills or legislative proposals which we can draft and petition Parliament to enact, so that we can start dismantling this old state? So that's all for me for now, and thank you so much for giving me the mic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you very much, Eric. We'll carry on. Eric, anytime you feel like jumping in, you just jump in. Steve the same, and Alex the same. I'll let you stay for a while. Patriotic, you've been here for a while. I'm sorry I dropped you because I wanted the seniors to handle some legal issues. So kindly you can take the mic and then we proceed. Forgive me, Patriot.
Okay, Nimek, forgive. Thank you very much, KOD, for hosting this space, and thank you everyone who has logged in. Okay, mine ilikuwa just to take you back to history a little bit. Mi nilikuwa nataka kusema all issues that we are having today as a country originate a long time ago. Toka time our forefathers chose to fight for our freedom and our independence, and as they were progressing very well and they were to win, and they were able and they were that capable to win the fight at the battlefield, kuna pali walikosea. They accepted to be compromised, and that's why they held those things they used to call the first Lancaster conference huko London, and the fucking second, and that's where everything went wrong. And the same thing, it was about to repeat itself when Mr. Ruto alikuwa anasema ati tukue na dialogue. He wanted to compromise among our to compromise us again using those old tactics, where alikuwa anauliza tuchague some of our leaders to go there and have a dialogue with them. He wanted to compromise them. I want to tell you this, guys. We should not accept that thing again. Everything went wrong. That's where the colonialists got a way to penetrate into our country and invade everything. That's why we are having issues up to date. So for now, the war is not about only William Samoei Ruto to step down. We want to turn every stone and resolve our issues completely for a long-lasting result. Okay, thank you. Mine was just that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. I will go to Tribe and then Mogocho, then Engineer. Africa, you'll go after them. Alex, again, anytime you want to jump in, you just jump in.
Right. Thank you for passing the mic. I believe this is the first time I'm having an opportunity to speak on KOT Sonko's space. Mine is just to highlight the issues that I noted. Yesterday, I was part of the team that was in town as a journalist, and we were met with harsh stance from the police officers. I was hit by a tear gas canister on my leg, which is so unfortunate. And when I went to ask why I was being tear gassed, and I was told that enda hospitali, utibiwe, urudi tena. You see, that is the kind of people we are relying on to probably give us security in terms of when there is maandamano and so forth. So it's total crap. And personally, I'm disappointed, and that is what I'm looking forward to. After the 7 days of elapsed, that will be on Wednesday. I will be on the streets as well, raising my concern about the freedom of the press. So this government is trying to, it's trying like to dictate, and they want to make every other journalist or other media station a puppet. So when they say this goes, it goes. If you go against that, you're met with high conditions that will not give you advert slots. This is going to happen, which is total crap. And the police presence was heavy, whereby some police officers are reasonable because they didn't stop us from filming. Some behave like they are childs, like they're kids. They have that adolescent stage that they don't want you to film them. It's like when you're filming them, you're going to sell their images to somewhere, so they're behaving like nuisances. So there was a group of boda boda riders on Ibianga Watu. They tried to, cross over. They were met with harsh conditions. For once, I celebrated having to see tear gas being hurled at boda boda riders. For once, I felt that they did the right thing. Yeah, so that is all from me. Thank you.
Asante sana. Mogocho. And guys, when you come to the speaker panel, just take the language you're comfortable. We mixed, and we're from different places, so take the language that you feel comfortable. Mogocho.
Mogonchi. So I'll be very brief and quickly through the point. I have a few questions about your IT plan and data encryption and transmission of maybe any other data that you feel like you want it to be on the public domain, and where you may host it. I probably may give some help on that particular section. And however, we also may want to vet or whoever will be part of the team, because you don't want to put it again, the DCI in part of that team. And that will bring also some small questions about the cookies and where you'll be hosting it. Will you be hosting it on the server side, or will you want it to be hosted on the private domains where people are hosting through from their own houses, or something small servers you make in your house? So I also have a few suggestions to talk about, particularly the way we are funding the government, funding the killers. My own opinion on that particular topic I was thinking is that if there's a way we can starve the government, is that avoid banking, or whenever your paycheck comes into your bank, you just go withdraw your money, put it somewhere buy from your local neighborhood supermarket or mama mboga, whoever does it remit taxes or VAT directly to the government. Lessen the way people go eat out, because those are most of the common ways this government is making a lot of money, through eating out, partying in the club, all those things, because they have to remit those VAT every now and then. Cutting that cash flow to the government will help us really curtail this government from having that power it has to really kill our fellow Kenyans. And I was also thinking, because Safaricom has really portrayed a very bad character in behalf, exposing the location of few people. It's not only about Safaricom, but we also saw at some point they were trying to really act like they were down, yet they were not down. If we can find an alternative of Safaricom, Starlink is there. There could be those local ISP internet service providers who don't really use Safaricom as their gateway to the internet, or they don't have to buy a bandwidth from Safaricom to access the internet. So we really have that kind of list of those kind of internet service provider. We also need to put them in the public so that we can avoid Safaricom and put them down, so that they can know that we are fighting for our own democracy and freedom. I've seen a few bloggers. I'm going to mention a name, the MCA for Kileleshwa. That's a lie. The guy is really afraid of losing. If Ruto gets out of power, he's also going to be kicked out, and he has to campaign again. He probably doesn't have money to campaign again. But if he has done what the people really need, he shouldn't be worried about him getting back to power. He's been really been against the movement, this GNC movement that is fighting for our freedom and independence. If you see people like him, we can start to report their accounts until they're kicked out of the spaces. We don't want to hear their negative energy in our positive energy that is really pushing or really willing to get the message out there. And this also will happen to the government bloggers who are really pushing the message, trying to intimidate people out there, telling them, oh, you are by yourself. There's nobody who's willing to fight for you anymore. Nobody's demonstrating. Nobody's against the government anymore. Those kind of accounts, just report them. Let's put them down. We don't need to have that kind of energy. No more in the space. And on the legal perspective, I'm not really good at law. The lawyers out there, this is your question for us, please. We know Sugoi King has already signed a bill, the traffic bill, that allows the police officer to get into your vehicle at any point whenever they feel like you've committed a traffic offense. The Kenyan police, they can always try to find something that is not even existent to just take you in. Don't you think this is a privacy infringement into the privacy of the people? And I also saw that they can also take a part of your car, which means they can take a number plate of your car until you avail yourself the police station. This will give all those government officials who are willing to cut down the voices of the people the power to intimidate Kenyans. And I don't think this is the right way of us really getting our democracy. A really mature democracy of handling things. You have my driver's license, you have my driver's license number. Why don't you open a case against me and present me in court, or ticket me, send me a ticket, and come maybe either pay or present myself in court. What can be done on this kind of policies or bill that was really recently signed by Sugoi King? I'll jump out. That is my last point.
Thank you very much. You corrected me. I should pronounce it Mogonchi. I got it right. Kindly inbox the host and the co-host on that data thing. We don't want to discuss it on the panel. We have a few of us already that are on it. So inbox either, and then we'll touch on it over there. In regards to that that bill, I think Wakili, either of you can take it, and then we can give another speaker. Anybody that has a legal question and is on the speaker panel, kindly, I could give you a chance so that when they take your question, they just do it for a minute. We rarely get them on board, so take advantage. Esther, you have a question on in legal issues?
Yes, please.
Okay, take it.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I had earlier discussed what is happening in the education sector, the attacks on every level of education. I'm just going to go through them quickly. When a child, let's talk about a poor child in Kenya is born, there used to be Linda Mama to protect them in the first 5 years of life. That's been taken away. Once they get into school, there used to be Edu Afya to take care of them and their health while in school. That's also been taken away by this government. Something else I forgot to mention earlier, the school feeding program for primary schools has been cut out by this government as well. JSS teachers, 46,000 of them, have been let go by the government. And without pressure, I don't see them without the kind of pressure the medics put on the Ministry of Health. These teachers will remain unemployed and away from their classrooms. Around 50,000 teachers missing from classrooms. You can imagine the damage that is doing to our children. That's in high school, JSS teachers. University, we know what has happened. Fees going from 30,000 to 300,000 a year. And that's for the cheaper courses. And my question is, because if we don't fight for this generation with every tool available to us and win and make sure that the next generation is as educated as us, we will have failed them. And I also mentioned that this is the first government that has attacked university education in Kenya and closed the door, shut the door to make sure that they have a generation that is poor, uneducated, unempowered, and with no access to information. So they'll not rise up like we have risen. My question to the lawyers, please, is in the Constitution of Kenya, in Article 53, 1B, it states that every child has a right to free and compulsory basic education. And Article 55A says the state shall take measures, including affirmative action programs, to ensure that the youth access relevant education and training. Can we take the government to court? Is that one of the tools available to us? And would the LSK explain how we can do that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. Seniors, I think you can take that. Then we carry on with the other speakers, if it is in relation with your side.
I can weigh in before my other colleagues join up. And I want to say that the socioeconomic rights and also rights to all those rights that fall under that aspect, one of them is also access to education and good health, is our fundamental rights. And the challenge that we have had with so many governments is this interpretation of these rights need to be progressively realized. And the aspect of progressive realization, if you look at some of the jurisprudence which have discussed, some of the cases which have been discussed in various jurisdictions like South Africa and other developed nations come to this issue, they have been set out guidelines, even under the international law and also African Charter, and even our Kenyan courts have interpreted this aspect of what is progressive realization. When you tell someone that for you to be able to access these particular higher standards of health services or able to access this sort of education, what are the criteria that define what we call progressive realization. And one of them which has been set out, is the aspect of putting up deliberate measures by the state to put up measures that are geared towards this agenda. If you're saying that people need to go to school, we need to see how much resources being allocated to schools. There's something on that breath that I've always noted with a lot of concern, is the aspect of bursaries. The question that keeps on pondering in my head is, why do we have a kitty called bursary, which is meant to help Kenyan students and Kenyan children to access education, but this money is held by political leaders and to be released as a way of favor to the constituent? You find the office of the president has a kitty. You go to the office of the deputy president, has a kitty on the bursary. You go to the governor, has a kitty on the bursary. You go to the MP, has a kitty on the bursary. Yet all this money will be used and pumped in the education system and education sector through the ministry, and ensuring the capitation is delivered on time to the schools, so that every single child has an equal opportunity to access school without their parents begging the members of parliament. If you look at how our parents and our colleagues who have children will walk into those CDF offices every single minute with papers and bunch of envelopes, trying to follow up for this kind of, as if it's they are giving you a favor. So when we interrogate these concerns, we need to ask the question of what measures the government is doing, whether these measures are retrogressive in nature or progressive in nature, and whether the people who are vulnerable and special are being protected. And so that this will give us a confirmation that the government's realization of these rights, though progressive, are they putting in place? Is it something achievable, and is it a realistic way of doing it because they are meeting a particular criteria as set out? So right now, as we reflect on the Kenyan education system, we look at children in places, especially outside Nairobi, and you go to North Rift Valley, especially the north part of it. You go to Ukambani region. You go to some places central Kenya. You go to some places in West Kenya. There are so many schools in very deprived states. Students are not even able to access schools. I was seeing a picture in X platform of a water tank donated by a member of, I think, area women rep, but the children cannot be able to take the tank to school because the roads are in very poor condition. But I know they pay tax every day. So these are rights that we can push for their enforcement. These are rights that we can sue the various institutions and government departments. And these are rights that we can demand for their realization. We can hold our leaders at all levels, even the Ministry of Education, accountable for this particular right that our children have. And I want to request us to to push for this issue, especially on the bursary, so that I was seeing a quick math somewhere on someone was doing some mathematics, which was ranging to almost 80 billion on the money that is spent in form of bursaries, and that money can be pumped in the Ministry of Education. So it is, I may not have the exact figures, but we are talking of billions of shillings that are being spent to be dished out in form of goodies to buy off members, public loyalty, instead of people realizing and appreciating that these are their rights. It's your right to go to school and find education. Schools with the books, is your right to find teachers there. If it's junior secondary schools, government's duty to hire teachers and pay them. Teachers, because even this right of education, as we talk about even our teachers on that breath, the kind of salaries they receive, is it motivating enough? The kind of working conditions they have, is it motivating enough to make them also give their best in these particular institutions? So there's a lot of issues that surrounds making education a success, especially on policy and implementation of it. And our business as vigilant and revolutionaries and people who are supporting development of this country is to push and to hold these leaders accountable, to ensure that they deliver on these issues, that our rights and our fundamental rights that we need to be realized. Thank you. Can I throw allow Banarianye to weigh in on that.
Yes,
All right.
kindly. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Steve. I think I associate myself with the sentiments that Steve made, but we need to realize that the constitution is like is a big room which is implemented through policy, the legislation, and simply by administrative actions. I will start with the issue of Article 33 that the lady asked about. Probably what we have done, in the past, we have not questioned the policy aspects that inform the funding of government programs. And probably one of the best routes we should be taking as citizens is when the minister or the CS for finance is presenting the budget policy statement, we should be taking some time and analyze it and interrogate it and see the policy position that the government is taking in terms of actualizing some of those rights. Then she asked whether going to court is one of the avenues that one of the tools that can be deployed. And my answer to that is yes. And you do not have to wait for the LSK to go to court. You yourself as a citizen can go to court. In fact, most lawyers here will tell you that they are willing to represent you pro bono. They want to go to court but they lack a petitioner. So someone like you can offer yourself to be a petitioner. You could approach any advocate, including Wakili Steve here. They could represent you and you could be a petitioner. And our interaction with the criminal justice system, we aspire it to be like what we see in the West. For instance, we will want to, I have seen people on social media telling a police officer, you cannot get into my car without a warrant. Well, that is not necessarily the truth in our context. Yes, the Constitution aspires for us to be that way, but the Traffic Act, as currently drafted, gives that police officer the power to get into your vehicle. So probably that's why I had previously suggested some of these elements as citizens. Now we need to start speaking out, talk to our members of parliament, find ways of proposing amendments to those laws, which in my view are really draconian. You will see police officers saying that they have seen, there is something in our law called a cognizable offense in the penal code, a cognizable offense. In the National Police Service Act, they call it a cognizable offense. And the administrative part of policing makes almost everything cognizable. So a police officer will say, I'm getting into your car because I suspect there is something. So, and it happens. So until we amend those laws to fit what ideally is contained in our constitution, we will continue seeing those things. And probably this movement should encourage us to amend those laws. I hope I have I answered the two patriots. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wakili. James had asked that question, and Esther, I hope you've been answered well. And still, they'll be coming back. Magoncho, you're still on the speaker. I wanted to drop you, but then we need a communication from you to add on to the other IT people. So we'll go to Otero, and then engineer, and then Koki. Then we can add another list on another new speakers. Otero.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, I want
we can hear you.
Yes, first of all, I want to salute all the soldiers that we lost in the battlefield. And this fight has been one of a kind. And we did something that is going to be remembered forever. Number two, Kenya is for everyone. And the power belongs to the people. And no matter how much these people brutalize maim and kill young men, and even abduct them. We still keep pushing. I know it might not pay right now, but I know someday it will pay off. Even the blood of those young men that we've lost, those people who call the shots and those people who also pull the trigger will not go scot-free, because these guys just exercised their right. Personally, I felt so offended. I felt by there I'm the Rubis guy. You say I'm the Rubis guy, eh? The guy in the red jersey and the red jacket that was sprayed on the water that was meant to be sprayed on a group of people was sprayed on me. And in the event, I happened to lose my phone and even some money on me. And since then, I've been stayed away for some while. You know, I felt so bad whenever I saw ladies being shoved to and fro. They get groped by the police, and as if nothing happened. You know, these ladies only had their gadgets and all. They did nothing wrong, and we condemn such acts. I'd even prefer if they want to do these things, they also assign female cops to deal with the girls. You know, it's so bad at this time and age that we still experience things that have been happening back then. And I still heard you guys. We'll always stay together, and this work will keep going on and on, no matter what they do, until Kenya changes, until the systems work, until these people realize that they are serving us, not the other way around. Thank you. That's what I felt I want to say. Thank you.
For giving me a chance to speak. It's been a long week, a really, really long week. I'm going to touch on several things, but I feel like all of them are going to be under the umbrella of what I would like to call enabling, not even that, what I would like to call using the Proxies concept. So I just want to go online just so that I can read for your definition of that Praxis concept, so that I give you the best definition from a behavioral science point of view. So it's the act of practicing something, an art, a science, or skill, as you do it. You know, it's the process by which a theory, lesson, or skill is enacted, embodied, realized, applied, or put into practice. And it's just draws from the word practice, but the concept is, and this is just to first of all dispel all these quell all these conversations about people need to, you know, just relax with the mandamano. They need to, you know, let things go back to business as usual. The constant questions of what next. I feel like you need to tell whoever is asking you those questions at this point in time, where we have seen all the things we've seen, that we will use praxis. You will use the concept of praxis. We will learn as we go. We will apply as we go. We will implement as we go. We will theorize as we embody and enact. Like, theory becomes practice. And in doing that, that requires a lot of us to create environments where we enable ideas and discourse, where we allow for ideas to thrive. And I know right now that is a thing under attack. that freedom of speech, that freedom of basically everything. And you can't say it's not going to happen to me. I think that has been a really huge problem with our society, where, and we can't even blame, you can't blame yourself for being in an abusive situation, and for not knowing what you didn't know. You know, the more awake you are, the more aware you're going to be about every next step that you need to make that is better. And I want to encourage everyone to focus on the personal, like you and what you are bringing to this table we are creating as we go. What are you bringing to the table, and what is the impact that you're making? And that impact can be so diverse. It can be in the ideas you're giving. It can be in, I was seeing on the news lately, I have been seeing Samuel, and I was like, I remembered watching him back years, because my sister used to do that debaters contest. And I remember watching him, and I was like that flashback came back, and I was like, everyone needs to do what they need to do. Like, you can talk. You can sing. You can dance for freedom. Please, by all means, go ahead and dance. But the point is to try and look at the positive and the glass half full, which is so hard right now. Like, but we need to try and do that. I want to speak, like, I'm going to split what I wanted to say, but I wanted to start by that, like, grounding, and also to talk about two tweets that I have written that are very important. And the first one is with regards to a ruling by the Supreme Court. I think AO had me speaking about this, and maybe Afrocentric. I don't know whether there was other people. I think it was their space. And we are in a situation where the money in the economy has been it's rotten. I don't know what else to call it. It's rotten, yeah. And that rot is manifesting in very different ways. But one of the ways that I want to contribute to helping people to fix that rot is by that tweet that I wrote about the ruling by the Supreme Court for this case that has been going on since 2008. And basically, the long short, I'm going to try and like retweet it and maybe pin it somewhere, I don't know, in the next like 10 minutes. But it basically tells you that you are allowed to go back to the bank and tell them this interest rate that you went and added for me, and not just banks, but any institution that is under that list that was released in 2023, I think, regulating all the financial institutions that are allowed to give credit facilities in this country. So if you've ever had such a situation, you have grounds to go back to the bank and have like a readjustment of your loans. And even further, you can even link up with other people and you can get into a class action if you want, because you're already having so much money taken out of your pocket. You don't need to be paying punitive taxes and punitive interest rates at the same time. I need to take a call, but someone else can talk, and then I will come back. Yeah.
Thank you, Koki. And Ayot, are you on the speaker? Ayot?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here,
And
but I don't.
6,000?
I'm not sure if 6 is there. Is 6 there really?
Hold it for me. Hold it for me a bit.
All right. I'm really trying to avoid to speak on these spaces because of a few issues
No,
here and
just
there.
don't speak. Don't speak. Just take for me the speakers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so we just had Koki, right?
Yeah. After cooking now, circulate the others. I'll be back in a few.
Okay. So gentlemen and ladies, I hope you're well. I'm going to start from Africa. Africa, are you there? Africa Watch. Is your
Yes,
mic hot?
I'm there.
Yes, please speak to us.
Okay, just a very quick one. In terms of some of the issues that we have been looking at, good evening once again. I really liked the bit of the discussion that we had, especially with the legal experts that were here a few minutes ago on the platform, led by the former president of the Law Society of Kenya, Akili Steve, and the rest. And I really appreciate the fact that when what we are doing is basically led by information, there is no such a power like the power of having the right information. Because I think that plays a very big role in ordering our steps, such that as much as we push for what we are pushing for, we try also to ensure that we do not behave like the way everybody else is behaving. As we correct the mess, we try to correct it in a much decent way, basically informed by the right information that we have. Because I think for some time, I just wanted us to look at the aspects of issues to do with future appointments. And I realized that looking at the ethical issues, actually, most of the problems that we have, I realize they are much of an ethical issue than sometimes even the law. Just as Wakili Deuri said, sometimes it's in most cases because we have gotten the wrong men and women in place, not because they didn't have the right education. As you can see, some of the elite members of the society who have got an advantage of having the best education, but minus ethics, you find that there isn't much that they're able to do. And I just wanted us to have an example of the UK, a close study of the UK government, because that is one of the developed nations. And I've seen when you go online, you find most of us have been very much excited by the fact that they have elected, I think, like around either 11 or 13 young people who are below the age of 30. But of course, that is not so much of news because in every election in the UK, there are always such category in terms of the age brackets. But what I want us to have to borrow a leaf from is the kind of ministers they're calling the cabinet secretaries in the UK. And I'll also relate it with a few people who held the same dockets here, and though they didn't have a speciality in terms of the academic background in those particular areas, but they still delivered. Like, for instance, we remember this lady called Charity Ngilu. The time she served as the Minister of Health, and that is the time when we had a lot of improvement. Charity Ngilu was not a medical doctor, but she was able to deliver. because the cabinet secretaries, in most cases, what they deal with are policy issues to be able to push policy issues, because under their dockets, you find in every ministry, they are technocrats who will deal with the professional issues pertaining to the specifics in terms of speciality in those areas. But as long as they are women and men of integrity, sometimes it's not much about education, or rather what they have specialized. Like now, just a brief look at the current UK cabinet, which has just been formed a few days ago. You find, for instance, the current Minister of Health, Mr. West Thierry, is actually somebody who specialized in history. And I know in our Kenyan setting, somebody would be wondering, what would a historian be doing at Afi House? But you find that still their systems work, because this guy is there to be able to push policy issues. And because they have embraced the right ethical values, and they believe that their presence there is not because they are the best, but it is because they have been given a honor to be able to serve. They are able to discharge their services and to make a very big difference. So in relation to that, what I would want us to do, if it's possible, I encourage most of us who are involved in this particular movement of trying to push for changes, that at least as these discussions go on, we should not miss any information. Let's get the right information so that even when we are acting when we are informed. Like, for example, I remember sometimes there are people who are saying, let the president dissolve the parliament. But of course, when we look at our 2010 constitution, of course, we know the president does not have the powers to be able to dissolve that particular parliament, because currently, as it is, the parliament has an independent, it's independent in terms of its calendar. And when we get this information, which becomes power, when we act on it and we push things, you find that things would be able to work. So is it possible in these discussions to identify some of the main issues so that at least we can push issue by issue by issue, so that at the end of the day, sometimes we sit back and we take stock and say, so far, what have we succeeded in? Okay, so by so doing, because I believe the other week of 24th, that is from 18th to 24th, there was a lot of synergy. But of course, there are people who also came in because they were looking for certain things. And once they have gotten whatever they were looking for, some people will fall back because they have achieved what they wanted. Because when you talk to people in the streets, you find sometimes people come, they are different groups, and people coming with different aims. So let's be organized. And being organized does not necessarily mean that probably we get a leader, because I think there is this notion, anytime you mention about getting organized, then people say, no, we don't want, because we are leaderless. But being leaderless does not mean that we lose the sense of organization. Just like the previous speaker who was saying that sometimes it's good and we do things, we do it informed by certain things, and then we try to practice. We push, but we try to practice what we are pushing for. Like now we are in a place where we are trying to push for better leadership, better governance. And the best way to be able to achieve this will not be so better than identifying certain issues and starting to act on them. Like from the discussions we have had today, we have seen like education is one of the areas that is now seriously affected. What do we do to be able to push, or even just within this particular time as you're piling, as this pressure is piling, what do we do to push maybe certain reforms in the education sector? Now, there's a time there was a discussion sometimes back, just immediately after the election, where the legal minds were coming up with this particular idea. Again, according to our constitution, we should have certain limits such that somebody does not just wake up in the morning and come and tell us now today we are changing from this system of education to another one. So it should be in the constitution on how to do it. Because education-wise, the failures that we have, the CBC, we are here because probably within the constitution, there wasn't particular articles that protect the education system such that we say probably if we need to change the system, we subject it to a referendum because this is something that affects so many people. And I'll repeat this question that I'd asked sometimes earlier. Ask yourself, why is it that in Kenya, we have got so many international schools which are thriving? And these international schools have students from well-to-do families. Most of these students come from homes where we have got these people who are representing us, these people who are making decisions at higher level of government. Why hasn't they taken a step of subjecting these children to the CBC that now they have brought to us to be able to dilute our education system? I don't know if there's somebody is seeing that kind of mischief, the way basically I look at it. Is there something that we can do to be able to resolve the issue around education? Because I think if we resolve it, even this issue of bursaries, like I've had people going to the constituency development fund offices, governors' offices, and trying to plead, to beg, if that can be fixed, we would even need that kind of a thing because the child will leave the house and go to school without complicated demands at the end of the day. And that money probably can be directed to the schools directly so that every child is able to access education. So what do we do? Is there something that we can do at the moment? Because the more we wait, especially like on the education issue, the more things are getting complicated. So can we find a way of crafting our ideas based on the issues that we are trying to push for, so that in case in future could be tomorrow, it could be in the next few hours, if there is a situation or other setup where probably these things can be presented and can be pushed, then we'll say we have got this document and these are the things that we need to be done at the end of the day. I think when we do that, we are likely to achieve much more than just, spending all this time discussing, and we don't have anything in place in terms of a strategy, in terms of a plan, in terms of the issues that are very crucial that would want to push and be able to say, let's begin with this number 2, 3, 4, 5, so that at the end of the day, we are able to succeed. Otherwise, I want to encourage us to continue with the spirit. Let's continue to engage, to learn more, to get to understand even our constitution. I'm really happy with the way people are interrogating the constitution. People, basically, most of the local people are beginning to master it, to understand this article says this. This is where we have got a problem. This is what is here. This is what we can do to be able to solve this and that. So all in all, as we continue, let's begin also to have probably to think about some of the men and women of good ideals, such that should an opportunity come where you want to present people, rather to elect people in leadership positions, at least we can be able to position them, knowing that if these fellas get into that particular place, they'll not be able to drive their agenda, but the agenda of the people, and they would be able to serve based on the morals, based on the discipline, based on the ethical background, and above all, based on that patriotism. Because I think we are all in this, discussing all this because we are patriotic about this particular country and we want Kenya to succeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Africa. I think we'll go to the next speaker. But before I go, I literally took up this mic today, not to speak, but just to stay here, just in case anything happens, because apparently I received a phone call today, a very weird phone call towards around evening. And that phone call was a strange number, not a strange number, but a private number. And this person asked, it was a man, this person asked, young man, don't you love your life? And they actually told me, if I don't delete my pinned tweet, they will make an example to the rest on me. So I don't know what that meant. I don't know if I should feel threatened. I don't know where they got my number. And I just wanted to ask the lawyers who are here. I don't know if they're still here, but how do we get to go about that? You have a phone call, but it's a private number. It was a call under a minute. They said it very fast, then dropped the call. They said I'm inciting the public with my pin tweet. I'm inciting the youth, not the public, the youth, literally the youth. So I can't lie that I'm not scared. Yes, I am, but who on earth will share my number? Who is that who knows me that will share my number to strangers? Who would end up threatening me because of what I do? I'm a video journalist. I've been attending all these protests since day one. Of course, today I didn't go to the streets. After hosting that long space, I wasn't feeling so well. So my question is, how does someone get to go about this? For those who know how to handle these issues, how do I go about it? But I'm not deleting that tweet. I'm not deleting my pinned tweet. I'm not deleting that video. So I will not delete it. But how does someone go about it? Number one, for my safety. Number two, to exercise my freedom of speech and freedom of, my career as a journalist. How do I literally go around that? But the next speaker can speak. That's why I've been feeling so, I didn't even want to speak. I just wanted to be on the speaker panel so that if anything happens, I just say, hey, nimekujiwa, mkanikijua nimekujiwa. I literally switched off my whatever, my location. I've just been incognito. So you guys can advise whatever possible. We can go on to the next speaker. I guess David. David Leleito. If David is not around, let's go to KD. KD, can you hear me? Seems people are asleep on this space. Engineer Mato, are you there? Guys, can you hear me on this space? Ni kama watu ni Koki. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Can hear you.
Since people can't hear me because they're not talking.
Let
Ama
Africa
mmetense
speak.
kama mimi. Ala, mmetense na mko kwa rada gava.
Let me what is it called? Let me inject a little encouragement, especially to AO. I'm really sorry about that. That sounds very unfortunate. I've also been having sleepless nights. I'm just been like, okay, today I'm gonna say something that's gonna be completely out of pocket. But and this is also I'm encouraging myself at the same time because it's part of what I said I'm going to talk about in my blanket of the Proxies concept. I want to read for you something that I wrote somewhere some time back. Convention is something made up by somebody and then repeated by others. If convention feels wrong for you, if your skin bristles and your spirit stalls at the thought of doing something the way it's done, then stop and act. There's someone, I don't know, someone's mic. Okay. Yeah. Who's that?
Sorry.
Hello.
Koki, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. You muted everyone. Sorry.
Yeah, I muted
So
everyone
let
to
me
mute
just.
that guy who had the
Okay.
mic on.
Thank you so much. Let me just repeat that because that's the only thing I want to say, and then I let someone else talk for now. Convention is something made up by somebody and then repeated by others. If convention feels wrong for you, if your skin bristles and your spirit stalls at the thought of doing something the way it's done, then stop and act. We can make changes. We can try and craft small slices of the life that we want. We can make convention to make things more just, more complete, and more beautiful. And not everyone will be happy with you because it is human nature to try and conserve things as they are. But your spirit will feel full, and there's nothing more meaningful than knowing you have been true to yourself. Yeah, I just wanted to give an encouragement to AO, but also to everyone, because I know we are all worried for each other, and it's good for us to be each other's keepers. As much as we are making everyone awake, it's good that we also keep check on everyone. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Koki. Means a lot. Really appreciate your kind words. David Lele, are you on this space? David, Engineer Mato, are you there? KD, if you guys are not responding, allow me to drop you guys to give other people.
Ayo, can I just talk about something that and it's just related to the person who was talking just before.
Right,
you
go ahead.
spoke. Yeah, they were talking about like workable solutions, and I'm a very solutions-oriented person. And also because I look at data all the time, I try to see the patterns in the numbers and everything. And honestly, this is the first time I have seen this kind of level of greed, because even the data doesn't lie. Like, trying to, let's say, monitor things like fixed income week on week, because there's a budget that's given, and then every week, without fail actually, the government always comes to the market to borrow money from the public, and that money is not going to good use. Let's just face it. And I want to give an example of a solution. I'll start with healthcare. I have another one for education, but I want to start with healthcare because it's at the top of my mind, and I've just written something about it because I was thinking about the numbers from a unit economics perspective, and it fills me with a lot of rage, especially when I truncate things and I kind of like see, I can calculate how much debt my child is gonna be paying, and that debt is racking up the more I'm even speaking right now. It's not a tenable situation, and I have some solutions I was going to just throw around. But the first one is with relation to like healthcare. And I've written about it, but I just wanted to expound a little bit more for maybe anyone who might not see it or might not understand what I'm saying a little bit. So right now, currently, I mean, hospitals are not taking NHIF, and for most of them, you will find that they have not even been taking this NHIF for months now. Because if you talk to people, and that's another thing I want to encourage us, you know, we are here online, and there are people who are not online, but we can make a point of checking in. I heard someone mention that they were speaking in a Kamba radio station, and I was like, that's actually one of the ways of applying the Proxies concept and making an impact matters in your own way as well. And it's the little things because they're gonna reflect in the collective. So I want to use the example of healthcare and this NHIF to make my point, this point right now. So we all contribute a minimum of 500 to NHIF, right? And okay, we can even say 300, 500. I'm not even sure about that minimum, but it is 500, yeah. And you can even say like that translates now, if you're looking at it from a unit economics perspective, that translates to what, what? That translates to 500 million for 10 million people. And that translates to 5 billion for 1 million people, and then 500 million, and then 10 million, 5 billion, and then let's say 50 million, 25 billion, right? So in a month, these guys are collecting 25 billion. Like that's on the higher limit. Even if we lower that amount and we say 10 million people, that's still 5 billion every month. And on now a grand economic scale, now in a year, on the lower side, they'll collect a minimum of 60 billion. And on the higher side, they're going to collect a maximum of 300 billion. So that's 60 billion to 300 billion. That's the range of how much money they can collect from this NHIF, and that they do actually. So why not carve out 300 million in our budget and say that we are going to get everyone healthcare? No one is going to be paying, and there's a set, like, it's like the way you just go and pay insurance every month, every whatever year. There's a bill for that for everyone, and this is an investment in public wealth and public assets and public dignity, And then to even add on top of that, since these people cannot be trusted to manage money, maybe they need us to show them how to, I don't know, do it. And that 500 can even be, you say we are not even going to scrap it, we're actually going to invest in our country. This is going to be Daima Mimim Kenya contribution, I don't know, call it whatever. And you still contribute. It's not going to NHIF actually, because that's supposed has already been allocated in the budget, 300 billion. We've done the math. It's possible. And probably even get very good healthcare, because that kind of economies of scale should not be something that we are playing around with. Those numbers are not small. That's why this whole situation has everyone shook. But imagine now if we contributed that 500, like just continued. It's not going to NHIF, and it's going to now this thing that he was saying about SHIF, right? If someone has an extenuating medical circumstance that cannot be covered within the scope of this 300 million, and those are those rare cases, because that is how you take care of everyone in the community. But that can be even channeled into a fund that's professionally run, and then every year it can even be pegged on like a blockchain, and you say that the thing to the unique identifier is your birth certificate that becomes an ID, when now that's the change that determines, you can start now contributing to this sovereign, I don't know, wealth fund that in year one makes 300 million, year two 300 billion, year two 600. The potential is limitless. You could even peg the decision making on what happens to the money of that fund every year. Can be a rolling investment that everyone votes on, and there's options, and you present your case, whoever you are in the country, and you say, this is what I want this money to go to do, and everyone votes on it, and it's decentralized. And I really want to encourage, and that's why I keep going back to the Proxies concept, that we need to allow for environments such as this, to allow for discourse and ideas to go every which way they can go. And then if you learn about something here, love it forward, like tell your neighbor. Like nowadays people don't even talk to each other, and they're living in the same buildings, and it's all a tactic of segregation, and divided we fall. Just even your gardener, your boda guy, every person you meet has something to teach you, and that should give you a certain level of humility, but it should also make you present yourself into all these situations with, I want to tell them about this thing that I learned today, because sharing, it's like a candle. It's not going to make me mine burn out. In fact, probably burn brighter from all the contact, scientifically speaking. Yeah. So that's just my second point. You can give someone else to talk, and maybe give me a chance another time. But that was just an example of how to use all the discourse that you're having to now boil down into the numbers. And I'm happy to dissect the numbers that I can. I'll try. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Koki. Biril, are you able to
Yeah,
take over for a while.
can you take a break? We need your mental sanity. I'm so sorry what I've had, but stay vigilant. Keep in touch with us. Don't go offline, and don't pick any number that is not having a phone number. Just try to stay on the speaker panel. Don't get involved right now. Keep your mental sanity and reach us out. Check your inbox. We're with you, guys. That's the kind of leadership we have. So we all safe, but where are we safe? That is just a threat, and that's just a scare. But you cannot ignore it, and that is what they're trying to really make us be scared. So we need your mental sanity. So get off the co-host, stay on the speaker panel, and because that video is actually your artwork, and that is what sells you, and it actually happened. So just because you put it together, it is what happened. There's no lie about it, unless we take different scenarios and then we put it on one clip. That's a clip that happened in Kenya. But we need your sanity. We need you to be okay. Are you together? Koki, you were saying something. Somebody was speaking.
Sorry, it's just I am getting on a call, but I'll be around like in 20 minutes to. I'm still listening. Yeah.
Okay. De jure. Some names. Wow.
Yes, good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
My condolences, first and foremost, to all our comrades whom we've lost since the liberation struggle started about 3-4 weeks back. Well, mine is just to give a summary of my perception of what is happening, because at times things move so fast, and we also move with the speed, with the kinetic, and we forget to account. Now, my attention comes to the regrouping of the political class, and whatever the divide they're trying to swing in, some pretending like they're not in with Zakayo, and others going in with the Zakayo, or the obvious traitor, should be an open eye. Everybody should realize that that is the political class as a group. In our study groups, we call them the bourgeois. Those are the bourgeois, the buccaneers, the brokers. So you need not to look at yourself as belonging to any of them. You are the proletariat. And thirdly, there's no middle class. You're just one paycheck, one missed paycheck, one firing letter away from being a proletariat, if you believe that you are middle class or anything. And if you can, and I think you can attest to me, most of you, if you take your paycheck at the end of the month, by mid-month it's worth nothing. You're looking forward to the end of the month. And these are things that people need to go and study. Dialectic materialism. People need to go and study such things as the wages, as taught by Karl Marx. So my point is, there is a divide, a clear one, that now people need to open their eyes and see that the political class came and neutralized your fire, your revolution. And right now the narrative, they are the ones who are running the narrative. Where is the narrative of the revolutionaries? As we speak right now, it's muted. Second, my point is, you can talk all kinds of policy, you can talk all kinds of improvements, you can come up with all the brilliant ideas, but they ain't gonna they ain't gonna count at the end of the days. They ain't gonna count. Why? You haven't gotten rid of the cancer. You haven't gotten rid of the pendulum that is swinging. So how do we move forward? The numbers I call it the arrowhead approach or the spear formation. And you go to one point in numbers, 5 million man strong. You take the day. You take the day and you run with the price. But if you keep on strategizing, talking, negotiating, planning, blah, blah, you can do that all day, every day. The political class is organizing, is strategizing, and is running the narrative. So it's even better you never started it. Because even what you think you gained, in reality, if you give these sharks, the political sharks, time, they are going to reverse it double the time. Remember now when they go into a coalition, they're going to be more in numbers. So any bill they want to pass, they'll pass it. Anything, if they want to manipulate the voting and whatnot, they'll do it. If they want to cartel the IDs, they'll do it. So if you really are in a revolution, you need to organize and march and take your prize and walk away. Thank you. They say, just as I leave, they say the revolution is not a tea party or the revolution is not a dinner party. So you can't move on like that as revolutionaries. You have to take decisive decision and take decisive moves and take the prize once and for all and go and move and create a new utopia and a fundamental change in the political, social, economic sphere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How was the lineup? Who came first? Because I dropped for a minute. I would go with how you came. Give me your hand if you were here before. If you can hear me and you're here before, you give me your hand. Okay, you can go. Okay, my goodness. Okay, go ahead. And if you're not speaking, kindly mute your mic. Caroline, mute your mic. General Alpha, mute your mic. Jejure, mute your mic.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me send my condolences to everyone that has lost their loved ones. Yeah, we'll be keeping you guys in prayers. So we've been through a lot recently as a nation. We've seen deaths, abductions, killings, and the police brutality that has been going on for the last, let me say, 5 weeks now, right? For the last 5 weeks, we felt disrespected and hurt. But despite all of this, we've managed to, stay strong and keep fighting. So mentally, I think we're in a tough place mentally. So we've experienced a lot of pain and fear, but we've also shown a lot of resilience. We are determined to push through, and make things better. So our spirit should remain unbroken, and we need to continue fighting for our rights and justice. The police have been trying to take us back, but we've kept on pushing forward. That should be our spirit right now. We need to be, keep pushing forward. Because we are in a transition. We are heading towards a future where we hope to see a change, a better change for Kenya. We are sorry. Yeah, we are more aware of the challenges that we face, and we are more united in our efforts to overcome the challenges. So our mental strength is being tested. But we need to but we are providing that we are trying to withstand the pressure, and we are continuing to strive for a better Kenya. So I have some strategic actions that we need to take as we keep on fighting. Number one, let's begin by acknowledging the complex socio-political landscapes in Kenya. Government manipulation, corruption, and human rights violations, these are some pressing issues. So it's important to frame these discussions in a way that is accessible and relevant to the lived experiences of our audiences. So we need to spread the gospel. Let me say the gospel to everyone that is still in the dark. We need to tell them whatever is happening. We need to keep everyone in the limelight. Number two, we need to focus on these key approaches so that we'll provide a strong foundation for effectively educating our community about the pressing issues in Kenya. So these methods they combine personal interaction, technological leverage, community engagement, and safety, so that we ensure a comprehensive and impactful effort. Then, so as I finish, let me say that Kenya, at this point, we are pregnant. Kenya is pregnant. And during pregnancy, there comes a lot of challenges like high blood pressure, there are infections, people get depressed, women get anxiety, and even there are lots of things. But eventually, they always give birth to beautiful kids, bouncing baby boys, like beautiful kids. So Kenya, we are now facing the challenge of pregnancy. We are pregnant. We are trying to deliver. Eventually, everything is going to work out for us, and we need to just keep on fighting until the end. Because when we give up now, it's like we are committing an abortion. So we need to continue fighting, because at the end of the tunnel, there's light. Let's go for the light. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for your submission. We're going to be okay. Just give us a few, guys. So, who's talking after you? And that's why I said that these people, it's high time that, man, I don't know when it's going to be, but then.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Who is talking?
This is Levi. Can you hear me?
Is that General Alpha?
Levi.
Okay, go
No,
ahead, please.
it's fine.
Kindly go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I wanted to congratulate all the guys who are on the ground protesting, but at the same time, we guys in the diaspora have to offer them some help. And part of the things that we need to do is come up with a few social handles where everybody can be able to go and get the basic things that people can use. Basically, we get the information and disseminate it, basically like chew it down to palatable in short, like things that can be easily be consumed by a regular mwananchi. Like all these guys are stealing money and putting up shell companies all over the world, like Ruto and Kenyatta. They sold close to about $10 billion. So if we are able to like do some websites and where we highlight where all this money is stolen and hidden, so that in the next time people, when they start voting, they can start voting not based on tribalism and favoritism, but they'll vote based on the idea and not on thieves. So anybody from the county government to the whole central government who has ever stolen, any person who's caught on the ballot should not even receive a single vote. But this will come along if we establish certain, sites and the previous guy was saying, we give out all the information to everybody out there so they're able to know what's going on. In so doing, they work for us, not we work for them. Because most of these guys are working for, the West, where they are promised to get a diplomatic passports, immunity. They're like the old dictators when they were chased from their countries, like Mobutu. They ran to France. This is what the Kenyattas are waiting for. If we put them through the grill, they run to Britain. These are the kind of things they hope to go and do, but they're stealing from us. I don't even understand till today what the British Army is doing in Kenya, occupying the most fertile land in Kenya, in Nanyuki. And now the Americans are coming in. Are we really in charge of our own country? I'm going to stop right there. I'm getting hot.
You don't need to drink no water, man. Just take a deep breath in and breathing out. We want you more angry. Don't drink any water. Caroline, Levi, don't drink any water. Keep on getting angry.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me, General Alpha?
Oh yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, let me start by expressing my deep, heartfelt condolences to our soldiers, the young ones who have really died because of fighting for justice in Kenya. I speak from Kenya, and situation is not very good, as people see, even though today there was no protesting. But I want to tell you that the young people, especially those who are not known either in the social media, have been abducted, probably killed. Nobody knows where they're about. And I want really to request, if there's some people who are hearing me here with the legal minds, that they should now move again to the High Court to ask the court that police officers who are arresting people must be in uniform and have to identify them to befriend any protester. And if there is any police who is hooded and not in a full uniform, the protesters should treat them as criminals and should resist the arrest. And to the police, such criminals who have been set by this administration to intimidate people and to torture, can be able also to assist in case if there is such people, because now they are invading people's houses and abducting, especially they are able to follow you when you are in the X space like this, WhatsApp, TikTok. They can see you and come and abduct you. And sometimes even the people in the estates are just watching. And I think maybe if the Law Society of Kenya or anybody here, I think we should think of that so that we can protect the young people who are being abducted and killed. The number those people are saying maybe 41, 51, those are just numbers which are not really authentic. There are many, many people who are missing and have been killed. So we should be thinking of that. One thing that now we should address, because from the beginning I said that we are dealing with a very, very terrible person, a thug. The more that we stop protesting and giving chance, probably maybe 2 days or 1 week, we give him time to reorganize and to organize these thugs who are coming to brutalize people and to abduct. Because we are now fighting for justice and we want this revolution to be successful, the protest should go on every day as one of the strategies, every day. Because if we give him time, he is strategizing. So we should be thinking of that. Again, now we are seeing now the political class is becoming more threatened, and now they are organizing themselves. And this coalition that these people are trying that they are going to organize is to protect them, because whether the opposition, whether maybe the government, these people are benefiting from this injustice. And when what are they going to address? What are they going to address? Because the issue that is ailing us seriously here in Kenya is about corruption and disregard of the rule of law. So the constitutionalism is what we are crying for, that we want to be, we want to be implemented, to be followed strictly. But what are they addressing? They are addressing of how they are going to get powers and dish out the government ministry among themselves to benefit, and they will be continuing to do the business. We already becoming, it is becoming open that indeed Kenya does not have any serious debt as they allege. These debts are just created for us because they know quite well that quite a number of Kenyans do not follow things and do not probably understand the finances and how things work. But it is becoming now clear to everyone. So what we want really to be addressed is this debt issue. We want to know the real figures of debt of Kenya and what have we been paying for, because this is where we are getting a problem. And this is where they are using it to loot us, to enrich themselves. We know that there was a report about the Pandora box. These things began from 1963. If the Constitution stipulates how money should be borrowed and used, we want to know this. And we have a very qualified office of the Auditor General. She's able to do all this, because when we look at the auditing that she has been doing, there's a lot of credibility of that. But nobody from the executive is able to implement the proposals of the Auditor General. And this begins way back from Ouko. And we saw even Kenyatta when the audit revealed a lot of things. Mr. Kenyatta was very harsh in State House because they all benefited from this. So probably the person who did not steal money from Kenya and probably hid them somewhere else could be Kibaki. But all these people have stolen money and they are hiding them outside. And they know very well, because we know very well that, according to the auditor report, this much of the borrowing he did without even seeking the authorization from Parliament and even from the advice from the Attorney General. So which means the borrowing or the loans that he took does not belong to us as the taxpayers. We should not pay that. He should pay it, because money, nothing it has done. And we know very well that according to the Constitution, when we borrow, that money should just be used for the development. We should not use it for the recurrence expenses. So we know since this guy took over the power, it's 1 year, there is no roads. There are no roads being built. There is any mega project going on. Why was he doing this borrowing? And what is this? So these are the things that we have, that the kind of the government of national unity they are trying to.
Alpha, are you there? General Alpha?
I can hear you, yes.
Are you done with the submission?
Let me wind up by just 2 minutes, then I finish. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but your words are breaking into two. I think your network has issues.
Okay, that is a problem. So I'm really saying that the protests should continue every day. It should not be, maybe we give them chance, because when we give Ruto a chance, he strategizes and he gets that time to attack people. Let us be in the street every day so that we deny him the revenues that he can use. And he will go home because he's cornered. Even if you look at over 80% of Kenyans are not supporting him, are not even supporting the coalition kind of a government that he wants to form with opposition. So it means that when we stay in the street every day, in the next coming 2 weeks, Ruto will go home with all his people. And this is what we should do. And beginning, I said that the lawyers who are here, who can help us, please, they should file a case in a high court for emergency to bar the police who are not in school, who are not in their uniforms, to arrest the protesters, because they are using these people to abduct people, to kill people, because these policemen, some of them are hooded. Why are they hooded if they are policemen? Why are they hooded? Why do they wear a mask? Why are they masked? You know? So they should now be barred so that the protesters should not be arrested by anybody who is hooded or masked or who is not in full police uniform. That is my request, and I think that is the end of my submission. Thank you very much.
Geoffrey.
Yes, yes, thank
General Alpha, I think you have to fix your internet because I'm even struggling to get what you're saying because I have to piece it together.
He's done.
It's Geoffrey and then David, then Engineer, then Caroline. We're doing 3 minutes, so make better use of it. Geoffrey?
Okay, good evening, members. Are you getting me?
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, I want to say to give condolences to those people who have lost their lives, their families that have lost their loved ones. And secondly, I want to say that we are nearing there. The fight is there. We have to fight. You see, when you are about to achieve something, that's when it gets too tough. So let's get tough and let's get going. In fact, to me, I could suggest that this demonstration should be every day. Reason being, when we give them a day to rest, they already have our plans in mind. Like today, you saw police, the way police were everywhere. You go to Uhuru Park, you will find that you can't gain entry there. So it gives them time to plan. But if we do it every day, from morning, evening, they don't have time to plan. Tomorrow we are there, they will get confused. Secondly, you see what has happened. These people, we thought Raila was a good man, but you see what has happened. It means that everyone can betray us, even including in here. I know they are spies. They already pick what we are talking and they plan ahead of us. So please, there are sensitive information that we should not even reveal here because it will ruin our plans. But we should strategize on how we can do things so that we always be a step ahead. Now, like we were talking of occupying Uhuru Park, you saw they planned. These people, they come here, they listen to what we talk, and then they are there. Thirdly, I think apart from even demonstrations, there are other ways we can also try to destabilize the smooth running of the government institutions. For example, I know as Kenyans, we are IT experts. Personally, I am an IT expert, and I know Kenyans have enough knowledge. They love technology. If we can get a way, we have ethical hackers. Let me use ethical in this suggestion, but we have hackers who can even hack government institutions so that we destabilize them so that they can feel the heat by destabilizing most of the things. We go to Huduma Center, go to KRA, destabilize those things. It will make them feel like, okay, the pressure is enough now. Because our goal is like, we don't want the government, not only Ruto, we don't want the government. We want the government to be resolved so that we start fresh. We scrutinize all those parastatals, all those institutions, so that by the end of the story, by the end of our journey now, we could find that tumefikia mahali kwamba it's a corruption free country. Ukiona Kenya now is becoming a reference point to most of other countries, including outside Africa. This is a good example. I am very happy because of this. And if we leave it here, it will be like we have been defeated, and now it will be worse. Because what again, ukiona sasa Raila ameingia ndani, au wezi wataingia. Wataenda sasa ndio watatupora kabisa. You see, the finance bill was dropped, but in real sense, it was not dropped. If you check well, they have started increasing those things that they said they were dropped in the finance bill. They knew what they were doing. We have not even seen the gazettement of the finance bill. I don't know whether it was there, but I haven't seen one. So those people have plans. Like now, again, something that I don't know. What does the Constitution say about the reappointment of those dismissed ministers? Because I saw somewhere that if a minister is dismissed, it means that they have got a ground that they are not worthy holding the office, meaning that they cannot be reappointed back. But according to the fununu kidogo, it's as if they might even return those other ministers back. Like now, umeanza kuona they are sponsoring people, these opinion polls, to rank them so that ndio waone kumbe watu wanawaamini. It's not us. That's not our cause. If they have been sacked, let them go home. We don't need them. In fact, we need a new start to everything. Not only in the cabinet or in parliament or what. We need a new start, including parastatos, including PSS. Hapo ndio wanapata njia ya kuipa. In fact, those ones wenye waliachwa kwa nini kwa ma PSS hao ndio wezi kabisa wa kwanza, hata hao ma minister hawana kitu. Those PSS ndio wezi. Ni vile sasa hawajitokezi, wameachwa ma minister wako kama umbrella hapo tu, lakini wako ndani ndio wezi. Ukiwafuatilia vizuri, they are investing on a lot of things. Hao ndio wash ya kwanza. So sisi ndio tunakaa tukiumia hapa. If you see like Ruto took his money to Uganda. He invested in Uganda in a very big way. That even has affected the Ugandan currency. Saa hii ukipata hata kama ukiwa Uganda, the rate that was 35, it's now 28. Because after he entered kwa gava, he had now to return back the rate so that he can return back his money to Kenya. He invested a lot. Pesa yote ya wizi. So nikisikia eti hakuna nini, eti watu wanataka dialogue, I don't have a need for dialogue. What we want is let them back down. Let us start afresh. Otherwise,
Jeffrey,
I'm very annoyed about this. Yes?
Jeffrey, keep on being annoyed. Please don't drink water,
Yes.
kindly. Don't drink water. How many petrol stations right now are in Uganda for the big man
There are
Bazoo?
very many petrol stations. Not even one. We have rubies. In fact, the rubies, don't be lied to that it is for Uhuru. Rubies is for Ruto. If you don't know. When
No,
Ruto won,
the number of
those
petrol
people,
stations in Uganda. Have you confirmed the number? The ones that belong to him?
we have rubies. Rubies is his in Uganda here. In fact, let me get the whole figure. I will come back later, maybe tomorrow. I'll tell you. I will correct all the information. But this guy, we don't need him.
I don't have the actual number, but what I know, for those who have been on your way from when you are going to northern Uganda, Kitgum, Ulu, so all those small stations along that road when you are going northern Uganda, his petrol stations, they have some yellow colors. Those are his petrol stations, and even quite a number of Ugandans will tell you that they belong to the deputy president of Kenya, which means he built them during Uhuru's term, when I think he stole money in the first term.
All of them, in fact, including rubies. He even opened the vaccination, this COVID vaccination center here in Uganda. That guy, I don't know. They are colliding with the Ugandan government to steal us. So even whatever information they get advice from Uganda. In fact, most of the police there who are killing people, they came from Uganda. Let them not think that we don't know. We understand, and we don't want that government.